Hello and welcome to the Common Room. We hope you are safe and we thank you for joining us today from all over the world. For anyone who is new here, we are a platform for young entrepreneurs and our mission is to contribute to the startup ecosystem through our various programming formats. You can learn more about them on our website, thecommonroom.foundation. We are active on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, so feel free to follow us and you can also sign up for a newsletter on our website. Our next event is on the 26th of this month with Ishan Mittal from Sequoia Capital and Yashish Doria, co-founder and CEO, PolicyBazaar.com, who will be joining us for a session on Zoom as they navigate current and upcoming shifts in the business environment. Feel free to check out our website for more details or write to us on info@thecommonroom.foundation. Today's event is being recorded and it is also being live streamed on Facebook. We would also recommend that you switch to gallery mode on Zoom. And if you have any questions, do write to us, but note that owing to time constraints, we may not be able to take all. Today we have Matteo Cibic and Sunil joining us in the room. Matteo is a transmedia artist and designer known for his objects with hybrid functions and joyful shapes. Matteo Cibic's studio is based in Italy, and over the last 15 years, Matteo and his team have worked with small artisans to develop products and creative ideas for international companies, private collectors, and cultural institutions. Sunil is the director of Motherland Joint Ventures, along with Mohit Jayal, and he began his career with India's foremost advertising agencies. As the former executive creative director of Wyden Kennedy India, he helped shape and build some of the country's strongest brands like Make in India, Indigo Airlines, and Royal Enfield. He is also a founder trustee of the Kochi Biennale and a catalyst behind the Urban Regeneration Project in Jodhpur. So I shall now let them take over, and on behalf of the Common Room, thank you once again for joining us.
Thank you, Tanvi. Hey, Matteo. So should we start with what you were telling me in the morning about this kind of economic impact of this compared to 2006?
Yeah, 2008, yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
So the other day I was talking with this friend of mine working in finance, and he asked me, Matteo, do you remember the last crisis of 2008? Yes, of course I remember. I used to have a fashion company, and I just started that, and I had a serious problem in running a startup. I said, okay, you remember, how much was the decrease of the world financial and business in 2008? It was, I don't know, maybe 10%, 20%. No, it was 0.1%. And this time is going to be between 6 to 9%. So it's going to be between 60 to 90 times bigger. I say, fuck. To me, it was really shocking in terms of impact. So, I mean, I think we are going to face him a very hard time, but design and the skills that we have are going to have to help people and businesses to reinvent ourselves in a way.
Yeah, the same. I think so. We've been thinking about all our businesses, so most of our businesses, whether it is, actual business or something like Kochi Biennale, everything's got to do with either the final impact is on tourism, it's on aviation, it's on hospitality, right? And so we've been thinking about like, what do we do with, say, Jodhpur? It's one of the rare projects where private sector has got a sort of not really control, but like impact over a large space, almost like 2 kilometer stretch, right? And this space has public space like an old stepwell restored by us, and around that there are like 20 odd retailers, there are cafes, there are restaurants, there's hotel, and a little away from there there's like cultural spaces, there's like all kind of things, so it's one of those like cases where you could say, oh my God, what's going to happen? But from design point of view, it's also very exciting. Like how do we now reimagine the space from entry point to the exit point? From the time people come in to go out, right? Whether it's in terms of the physical experience of people, like, from a biosecurity to cultural experience, how we can actually plan the whole thing, which is kind of very exciting. So we've been planning that, and we are trying to kind of get the right people who are more qualified than us to come in with us to help us design these spaces. And I think from design point of view, that can actually make a big impact, and we're hoping that can actually become some sort of an example of areas like that,
Yeah. And as well, probably we're used to travel very fast.
Yeah.
And our attention rate was very low in the travel experience.
Yeah.
So we're used to travel, stay one day in one place, in the evening in another place.
Yeah.
And then, so probably today we are somehow forced to spend more time in one place, and probably will enjoy it more. Yeah. So even the destination with tourism are gonna change their business model. Probably you're not gonna be just a one night stay, but more nights, and the entire activities around that are gonna be reshaped in terms of hospitality, for example. As well with shipping, I'm seeing these days how it's incredible fluid, the cost of shipments all over the globe. So yesterday I had to ship a box to USA from Italy, and was 600 euros. Never happened in the history. I mean, not in the 17th century was that expensive. And as well to courier a letter to India was $120.
Wow.
That, instead of $20. So we are gonna face things that are gonna change the way we are gonna design things and even approach things. There is a very nice book. I don't know if you read it. More from Less by Andrew McAfee.
No, I know the book, but I've not read it.
Yeah, I suggest to read to all of you that explain how dematerialization encourage creativity to work for best, and so to improve and optimize the use of materials, the techniques through technology. That's the only way that in the last 100 years, in the last century, human being could grow in terms of population. Otherwise, you couldn't grow. You just go into a big depression. So we have a pandemic, but people, we are not, the death rate is not higher than normal because other people are not having car accidents. And so somehow we are going to get into 10 billion very soon. So we will still have the problems how to feed the world.
Yeah, not true. And one of the other things, we've been like really thinking about is that, the wellness, normally wellness is seen as something which, like, when you're older or when you have a real problem, when you think about wellness, and then countries like ours, we've actually grown up with something like Ayurveda, which is like a very important thing. And it's all about, protection rather than fixing it, So the whole idea is to kind of stop it before it comes, right? And I think globally, people are now realizing actually that's a very important one, especially for our kind of business, where hospitality plays a big role. We are trying to figure out how do we kind of inject wellness into everything, So wellness doesn't become, after you get your drinks and, like, oh, let me just quickly go get a massage, And every hotel has like one back room behind the gym where you can go get a massage, and that's considered like, like a wellness center or something like that. Or you got to travel all the way to like some village in Kerala or somewhere in Switzerland, depends on how much money you have, to get a wellness treatment. Then you get out of there and then you travel back to your hometown, and you almost like forgotten about the whole wellness treatment. That's kind of a forgotten memory, right? How do we make sure that becomes part of our everyday life, and wellness is available as a habit in the cities and next door, where you don't really need to go to a doctor, So those are the things which I think now people like us working with experts can achieve those things, you know. See, that's another, you know, I find one of the big problem I find globally, except for like very few cases where the design community don't work with, let's say, scientists, you know, or scientists don't work with the design community, or doctors don't work with design community. Like, you know, that the engineers or the science, you know, people don't work with, or the city planners don't work with the design industry, right? As a habit, you know, and very rarely that happens. You know, that's where you have like one, maybe like a high line, or one like an IDEO. You know, there are not too many companies or examples where these 2-3 things kind of come together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think now, I think the way I look at this lockdown, like, you know, you need to see this as a pressure for us to think better, right? Instead of saying, oh my God, like what's going to happen? You got to think, oh my God, like this is like a, you know, like a new pressure for us to think and come up with exciting solutions, you know. Otherwise, again, we'll be like watching shit passing by and then sitting here and complaining rather than be part of the solution, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I just think that's something all designers need to be thinking about and be responsible, you know. So I just don't know how to kind of do that, like, because that's never been taught in none of the art schools, none of the design schools actually teach you how to be proactive and go out and do things rather than following, right? Because a lot of the design companies or design people, they expect someone to come to them with the problem and then they go with the solution rather than looking at the problem and they say, okay, I can think of a solution, right?
Yeah.
And at that scale, I think that's a big gap I think design community now has, and it's very apparent right now, you know?
Yeah, somehow is a problem that they face as well, that somehow you have to look for the problems to be solved, because somehow at the first view they look so intricate.
Yeah.
Because they are very interconnected and you don't find the way to where to start from.
Yeah.
But I mean, the title of this talk was design sustainability, and somehow I think this time switch a lot, made a switch in many people's head, because we were not used to wear masks in Italy.
Yeah.
Not as in Asia. And at the beginning, we were facing many problems because they were saying mask is not protecting you.
Yeah.
Just need to protect others.
Yeah.
And so no one was using it.
Yeah.
So it took a month to understand that mask, and it's a form of respect for others.
Yeah.
And as well, you understand with the time that it's useful to listen to scientists, as well as it's useful to pay tax in order to help your community. And this was the first time that Italians really start understanding that. And I think it happened more or less everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And so how as well company can help their employee or help their community throughout these hard times, it's something that will drastically change even the view of the company and how and the behavior of their employer.
Yeah.
So I think we will have a switch, and even the way we think to things, how we act, and even what we support and what we buy.
Yeah.
So I see these days in Italy and many European countries, you know, that all these big high-tech companies are paying tax in the Netherlands. And people are saying, no, you have to pay taxes here for the community.
Yeah.
To go back, you know, to pay back all the health system. And so that's in big scale, but even in the smaller scale, I think consumer and people are going to care much more about that.
Yeah.
Very near future.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that again, that needs to be, I think, explained much better to people in a more exciting way, because, like right now, I think last 2 years I've been hearing this word sustainability.
Yep.
There's conference on sustainability. Everyone is talking sustainability, including fashion magazines.
Yeah.
Last people should talk about sustainability, right? Even they talk about sustainability, right? But nobody knows what that really means, right? And then general public just don't care, right?
Yep.
And it becomes like a very kind of a small group of people who are like worried and concerned about sustainability. But that is never been communicated properly to people. They're like, what do you even mean? Like, people can't afford to eat like 3 meals, and here you're talking about sustainability and no use of plastic and everything. But again, that needs to happen at a very kind of base level, and then the funny thing is, we always had it, right? It's only in the last 50 to 60 years everything has changed. So sometimes I think it's always good to like go back and then kind of repackage the whole thing and then bring it back on, because everything is there. We don't have to reinvent anything. Things like Ayurveda, or like in Japan, they've been wearing masks for the longest time. They've been very, very careful. Like in the Eastern cultures, all this has been there for a long time. So I just think a lot of it has been kind of forgotten, and I think it's time for a lot of it to kind of come back, but come back in the right way. I think using this lockdown and this kind of feeling of confusion, how can we really use it effectively and then come out on the other side in a more exciting, more positive way,
Mm-hmm. Even because now we are at point zero. I mean, we are a few weeks further. India, we already open up, and many companies are closing down. Because the ones that were not going well before, they closed, and they're going to close very soon. So in a moment in which you have to restart from point zero, is the time you can focus on what you like to put the money in and put the energy, and even the government can choose what to finance and what not to finance.
Right.
So in Italy, for example, now they're financing all the works to do in the housing sector to make the houses more green. So with the new windows, new heating systems, they promote selling bikes. So you have a big advantage in buying bikes. They nearly pay you the bike or electric scooters, and European government are pushing a lot on that. So all the, let's say, the petrol in business kind of are not supported anymore as before. Because when you're in a point zero, you can just start, you can decide where to start again. So it's a big challenge, and I think design is crucial there, because we can give the way on where to go and where to invest the new money.
I think also for a lot of the Indian companies, especially the manufacturing sector, it's a very big opportunity now. Like, if you see this thing in a positive way, because a lot of people are now saying, I don't want to do business in China, right? I mean, it's bad for them, but and then people are worried about what's going to happen in the US. So a lot of other countries actually stand to gain a lot of business, and if they position themselves correctly, I think it's a very big chance. Sometimes I think, like, this is a good time for us to kind of almost relaunch Make in India program. This is like, I mean, for most people it seems like, oh my God, it's like a wrong time. But the trouble is, if we don't take this opportunity and do something now, I think we might lose the window, right? It's a great window especially for a country like India, to show if we can do good quality manufacturing, quality being the operative word, we'll actually gain a lot moving forward. Long term, it will be it's actually like a blessing in disguise. Yes, it affects business and it affected a lot of people, but when you look at it positively, we can actually think of a lot of solutions.
And then especially in the furniture business or design business, after being
oh my
2 months at home, you realize that it's better to have a nice home where to spend time.
Exactly. And then, like a great craft, sustainability, artisanal, everything is like, this is the place, you know. And of course, Italy, you know, the masters of like craft. But like, so now you suddenly realize, oh my God, like, you know, you can also do this kind of a slow fashion, or you can call like whatever, slow design. But it all can be done in time like this really beautifully by certain kind of people. And if the government really pushes towards that, and I'm not saying like we need to wait for the government, I think that'll be a mistake, but private sector and the people like us have to kind of take the lead and then push it through, you know. Otherwise it will not happen, you know. Yeah, because I think that's one big mistake I think a lot of the design community makes, always waiting for somebody to come and tell us, you know, what to do. And then in that, we are just kind of waiting, you know. I don't know. Yeah.
And then another, you remember in the last chat we had, we were talking about how to create a new etiquette in having virtual talks.
Yes. Yes.
That because we felt that there was no other way than meeting in person, do another business partner, or in order to do a deal, and you had to take a flight, go in the other side of the country in order to meet them for 20 minutes and then go back.
Yeah.
And I think this 2 months for many business people was mind-blowing, because you discovered you can find a new way of interacting with people through video. And it's not there a new etiquette.
Yeah.
Because I think as far as you don't talk about what you did on vacation, what about your family, and how to create an empathic relation between people through this video, you don't go to the core of a proper relation. So we're still native in that.
True. It's some sort of insecurity, right? Like, what will happen if I don't go there, or what if I don't? In fact, I used to like work like that for the longest time. I used to always work with the designer, sit next to me, right? And I would just brief them, and I'll go somewhere, come back, and, you know, keep telling them, okay, don't use that font, or don't use this color, do something. You know, that's how typically a lot of the art directors and creative directors work, right? And in the last 2 months, I'm like, my God, like we use something called AnyDesk, and it's like a godsend. It's just fantastic. You know, we're still doing, in fact, I'm finding I'm being more productive now than going to office, because when you go to office, you are just hanging around, feeling of you're doing a lot of work. Actually, you are not. You're half the time sitting and talking shit, and then, you know, not really achieving that much. Now you're like so focused to get that piece of work done, and then you come back and then you review it. It's just so much fun and so much more productive, I think, you know.
So in production, I have this experience with a company in India called Jaipur Rugs, that you probably know. They bring to the doorstep of the weaver in the very remote areas of India the loom, and actually they were keep producing full speed. You know, because the weaver were in their home, and they're this completely different way of producing, and was a win-win situation for both the company, the weavers, and the clients. So design of process, I mean, sustainability is in the design of process and designing new way of creating business, producing and distributes, especially today that we have a lack of shipping, for example, or bringing stuff around.
Absolutely. It's actually quite exciting, and also kind of, it's like freeing you from old way of working, right? You know, everyone is used to like going to office and running these big companies, or like, you know, jumping on a plane and going for, like you said, like one quick meeting. And, you know, we all used to do that, like, you know, just going from one city to another city, and, you know, and for like a short meeting, you know. Now you really have to like think, why are you doing that, actually, you know?
So, you know, in Italy till 1930, all the boats, all the big boats were running ice from the mountains in north of Italy all the way to Sicily in order to run fridges, because there were no fridge. But suddenly arrived the freezer, and so, you know, all these boat companies were thinking they had to shut, but that actually didn't happen, because they had to move other goods. So we will probably have the same. We will reinvent how to use many tools and many facilities for other things.
Yeah, yeah. And many office, like I think a lot of office space are going to become empty because a lot of the IT companies, a lot of the accounting firms, and and then companies like like when you travel around the world, one of the biggest signs you see is all IBM and Microsoft, and these companies really don't need to have people actually going to office. 50-60% of the staff can actually operate from home, and I think that's going to become the new reality. And then I don't know how people like WeWork is going to kind of approach the new reality now. I think this is where now the experience design will have to play like a very important role. I got like your new design, like the screens. I was wondering, if you do that with a artisanal kind of group sitting in maybe Rajasthan or something, could be quite an interesting collaboration.
Absolutely, looking forward.
Yeah.
For example, that project has been designed by me here, but there is a producer in Asia, in China, that produced for the Chinese market, one in Italy for the European market, and one in US for the US market, because to courier that object around the world is unsustainable, both ecological wise, but as well economic wise today.
Yeah.
And for example, we started with that, but then we are designing new pieces, completely different, because within 20 days, plexiglass perspex is going to be finished worldwide. There's not going to be any more perspex because everyone is using perspex to do screens.
Yeah, true.
So that's encourage people to think different ways of producing, of distributing. And to me, it's very nice. I mean, design that's the core of design. Yeah.
It'll be quite interesting. The other day I got there's someone in Kerala now making masks. They're calling it Ayurvedic mask. I think what they do is they dip the fabric in a bunch of Ayurvedic product, like kind of mustard and turmeric and all that. This kind of, it dipped in like hot water, and then that apparently can last 2-3 months, the effect of that. And it's a fantastic idea, actually. Yeah. It's almost like very technical what they do, but it's all Ayurvedic as the back end. It's quite interesting, actually. I think maybe we should definitely think about doing something for Jodhpur with your screens.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, let's hope that very soon we're not going to need the screen anymore.
Yes.
And because I think we will forget very fast.
Yeah. I think the day there's medication, we'll all forget it. We'll all be back to being idiots again. That's what's going to happen. We'll be jumping on planes and going to all the cities for one day visit. So should we now, Tanvi, are we doing good with time? Should we start doing questions now?
Sorry, I was just unmuting my thing. I think we can begin with questions if that's something.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the first questions we got was from Akanksha Deo from IKEA, who asks, in what direction do you think luxury will evolve?
I'm not really qualified to talk about luxury. I think, Matteo, you could talk about luxury.
Hello, Akanksha, first of all. Nice to have you here. So to me, my definition of luxury is something that has a value today and will have the same value within 10 years, if not higher. So technology cannot be considered luxury because when you buy it, it's already old. So, and I think today within the luxury, we have, because we are into a dematerialization society, we have always less and less product. When you get the product in your house, it has to be connected to a story and to an experience of yours. So the luxury is even more today linked and embodied with the object and the story that it carry related to you. I don't know if I explain it properly. My English is not that good, but luxury comes with a story today related to the product, who produced it, where you bought it, and why it's there in the house, and which link it open in your mind, because you are not used to have any more photos on top of our furnitures. We really have no more books. So in these very minimalistic, super boring houses, we are not connected with our past. So the luxury is to choose the furniture that and the object that you have around you, and the object that you have around you in a way that you are keep connecting, keep moving your gray things inside your head.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think luxury is also I think going forward, it'll become experiences rather than materialistic things, I think that's something everyone's now realizing. You can all have, you could be a billionaire or it could be poor, but when something like this happens, everyone's locked down in the house. And there's not really anything to kind of really hold on to, right? So I think the great experiences and for me, luxury is just being in a quiet place, nothing else, so I think it'll be different for different people, but as an overall idea, I think it'll be more and more like Matt was saying, that it'll become about experiences, storytelling, those unforgettable sort of moments,
And then probably luxury, these times change very quickly. I mean, to have a penthouse in the city center of a megalopolis without a garden or a small terrace, probably that flat is not as good as a small house in a neighborhood of a city in the countryside, where you can walk outside and do a barbecue and spend a bit of time with your family outside or with the kids.
Yeah. See, I think that's also because of the way our newspapers and magazines, their idea of luxury is the fashion magazine talks about some shiny golden thing, or sitting in first class, or so that becomes kind of luxury for a lot of people, because that's what's been told to you all the time. When you say luxury awards, it's like some really shiny, ugly things, very often, and it's mostly it's the idea of some of the journalists or some of the editors of the magazines, and that's what most people read, and that kind of very misleading, actually,
And even which are going to be the cool places for the next month. If megalopolis are the cool place for the next 6 months, as far as you cannot connect that much with people at openings and galleries, theaters. So probably in the next 6-8 months, maybe 1 year, it's going to be redefined what is the cool place to be, what is luxury. And here I see, even with the housing market, many people is buying a house in the countryside with a big garden because they can't stand to stay in a city anymore after 2 months in the city in a very small
right. Yeah, cool.
So the next question we have comes from Priya, who's in the chat today. She asked both of you, how would you design a sustainable school for the near future?
I don't know how, but that's a very important one, and I think it's highly required. I think so. That there's something we've been thinking about, actually, in part of a Jodhpur project. So I think today's school needs to be. This is something we've had a bunch of discussions. I remember having a discussion even at Common Room once. We had all the top schools were there, the Harvard to edX to you name it, everybody was there, all the top 6-7 big universities and educational institutions. So I think today's school needs to be about producing great leaders for tomorrow. And that for that person, I think the education needs to be a mix of everything: technology, culture, science, a mix of everything. You know, you need to create like this kind of a person who comes out of the school. Maybe it's a school based on only merit, and it needs to be funded by a group of people, so that people who get that education, they don't need to be rich, they don't need to write entrance exams, you know, because if education needs to be, if education is a very basic thing, why does it need to have entrance exam? Why does it need to have a test? Anyone who's smart should get in. So I think we need to build a school like that, and that school should be fully funded. And even if you get 10 kids passing out of that school every year, in 10 years we will have 100 great kids coming out of the school. I think today there's a need for a school like that, and that's the kind of school you can sustain. That's the kind of school can become very exciting, and there's no unnecessary pressure to have certain kind of marks and all that kind of thing. I think we need to think of like new ideas like that, because I think though technology has changed and, you know, the world has evolved, one of the things I feel is just not evolved the education system. Everything else has changed, but the way we teach is not changed yet. You know, it's gone online, it's gone offline, it's gone all that, but they're teaching the same thing again and again and again and again, right? I think if that changes, we will have a very exciting and sustainable education model. That's my kind of personal view on this.
Even, I mean, looking at the point we reached with artificial intelligence and machine learning.
Yeah.
The other day I was reading this article, this paper, about how there is this new algorithm, this new artificial intelligence algorithm that can make you the house as Frank Gehry or Louis Kahn or Le Corbusier. And it comes exactly as it is, because with machine learning, you can somehow predict how a person or a group of person would do something. It means that it will completely change the way we work. And even in the creative industry, I would never expect that. I mean, when I've seen this paper, I was really shocked. They started with fashion, now with architecture, and this friend of mine that is working on that was asking me to help him with design. I said, no way. But I would never expect they were reaching such excellence results.
Yeah.
So probably if our kids within 5 years time, 10 years time are gonna work with these machines.
Yeah.
These machines are gonna do machine learnings on people anyway, because without people, without doing machine learnings, they're not going to improve, hopefully. I don't know.
True,
or maybe yes.
Yeah.
So for sure, we have to be very flexible. I mean, teach them how to be very flexible and do very unexpected thing to think, lateral thinking, or have a very different approach and not a logic approach to things. Because machines are gonna win on that for sure. Yeah. So it's probably in the unpredictable. Yeah. How to teach kids to work with things that are very imprecise, unpredictable, and unknown.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll move on to the next question. So we have Vaishnavi from Vahe Ensemble, who's asking and saying that the touch and feel aspect of design is changing with more virtual tours and digital narrative, which seems to be the way forward. But is this shift one to stay? How long can we captivate audiences with such digital experiences?
That you want to go?
Yes. Okay, in the last 2 months, I haven't seen so many webinars because I found them very boring. we have a problem today. We are used, if you have to do a pizza, you look at a tutorial on YouTube. A tutorial, if it's longer than 30 seconds, is boring.
Yeah.
So a big challenge of a teacher today is to teach kids something very fast as a very real entertainer, and as to compete with a YouTuber that edit the cuts very well with effect and so on. The same is with the conference. Today, I don't know if I would ever go to an architecture conference after seeing a TED Talk or a very well curated masterclass by Masterclass or by Skillshare. So I don't know. Our attention point is very low somehow. So either we find other ways of connect that are much more empathic, but to do a conference, not edit in a physical place, either it's fundamental to get as place of sharing ideas with other people, but it's just for listening, there is no point.
Yeah. And I also, I don't think that though, you know, the way we consume information is changed. You know, earlier it used to be like what was on the newspaper, now you get it on a screen. Or, you know, used to go to movie hall and watch movies, now we see Netflix. But apart from that, the real experience of experiencing something, that does not change. You know what I'm saying? Your information delivery is changed. But like you're saying, you know, like how to make a pizza, the learning is changed, but making is still physical, right? The way we travel will be physical. Like, you know, everything else, earlier it was touchy-feely because you saw it on newspaper or magazines. That has shifted. But apart from that, I don't know how things have changed. You know, like you're learning how to make a cocktail on the phone, but you have to actually go and get all the ingredients, right?
Absolutely.
And you got to make it. So I think the what technology has done, it's made it much more exciting and much more accessible for people. You know, it's not anymore for those people, you know, who knew what to do, right? You really don't need to go to, let's say, a museum to see great piece of art. You can get on Google Culture Institute and they show you art in much more detail. So I think there's like, technology has given us so much more, and I think we need to kind of see it a little more positively. And this period, yes, in some case it will change. Like, see, common room, for example, it is meant to be a physical space. You know, it's meant for networking, people to come and hang out, and then do residencies, and, you know, give people free space to kind of come and work and help young enterprise, right? But now, under pressure, we are having to do all this online. So I think if you look at positively, like without technology in the shutdown, we would actually be completely shut down, right? Right now, when we talk about like this kind of distancing, it's not actually community distancing. You know, it is actually physical distancing. Community is actually much more closer. You know, we all talking to our friends much more. We are having drinks every evening with a different group of friends. You know, like, so I think this could be good and bad, but I don't know that the digital technology is going to take over the physical experience. You know.
Okay, thank you for that. Moving on to the next question, which comes from Devaki Jayal. If one is not designing for the masses or a wide audience, is social responsibility still as significant, or is it all right to do it simply for the sake of artistry?
That's a tough one, Devaki.
Can you repeat? Sorry, I lost it for a second.
Can you repeat that, Tanvi?
Sure, sure. So Devaki is asking if one is not designing for the masses or a wide audience, is social responsibility still as significant, or is it all right to do it simply for the sake of artistry?
I think it's okay to do it for the sake of artistry, right? But then that's your kind of personal project, right? That's something you do it to kind of, I don't know, test your level of creativity or aesthetics or whatever. But if you're doing it really for the meaning, then you better be doing something which is affecting a larger number of people, right? Because I just feel if you look at like, something like fashion where they have the couture week, that's one place where the creative people are pushed to kind of to do something so cool. It may not be wearable, but it's a kind of platform for them to show like how smart and how creative they are, but then they got Pret, which is for everybody, right? I don't know, like it's a tough balance.
If my answer could be a bit weak, because a lot of my designs are very public. I mean, they're published a lot around the magazines, but they don't make big numbers because are expensive items, and but this gives work to many people. So they are craft that takes 1, 2, 3 months to create. And without them, that 30, 40, 50 people that are working on them, they could work on another company that probably will produce many more products with much more waste. So in order to, if I see my work as a product designer that produce aesthetic and icons, I'm somehow happy that really few people buy them, because I don't feel guilty to fill the world with too many objects. I know it looks like a paradox, but I'm somehow happy to sustain many people that work with their hands and not with machines in order to use less materials. And the people that will buy it, for sure, they're not gonna throw it away after 2, 3 years. They're gonna keep it and give it to their kids.
Okay. One of the last few questions that we have is from Atyukti, who asks, in the past, post every pandemic and economic dip, the materialism and consumerism has only dialed up a notch. So how do you think it would be different this time? How do you think designers, design thinkers, and strategists can contribute in order to change that historical pattern?
High possibility, it might just become the same thing again. But unlike earlier situations, this is the first time, I think maybe after, I don't know how many years, that something affected the world uniform across everywhere, right? It's not like, some flood happened in somewhere in, Indonesia, or, some volcano eruption in Europe, where it all, only like some parts of the world gets affected. But here, it is like, the entire world. So there's kind of the collective sort of like consciousness, right? I think, hopefully, all of us will learn and then come back in. But my gut feel says, like, moment there is a proper cure, we will all go back to same thing, except for like a small percentage of people. Hopefully not.
I don't have an answer. The only thing I can say that this year I tried not to fly in order to understand how people would work, and to understand the problem of not flying, in order to suggest people what to do if not to fly, but the entire world follow my suggestion, and it looks like working for remote conferencing. So we're doing this.
Okay. The next question comes from Preetal. How would you imagine living and public spaces in a post-COVID world, taking into consideration the awareness of the sustainability, the cabin fever, food shortage that we've been experiencing so far?
Well, we are already in a post-COVID here, hopefully. And I believe somehow we try to go forward. Sorry, the studio. Wait, I 1 second. I close the phone. I'm back. I lost the point. Go on, Sunil.
No, the question was, how do we live in the post-COVID world?
I think we live as before. Nothing is gonna, I mean, we're still eating, we're still doing poo-poo, we still have to earn money at the end of the month. We will, I think we'll be more connected to the community, because there is gonna be more people that need help, and we will need help too. And that's the moment in which you see the real friends and who really support you, and which are the company that support you.
Yeah, I think there'll be maybe 2-3 different stages. I don't think it'll be like before and after like that. I think there's now what's happening, and then there'll be like a slow opening, and I think in that stage people will behave certain way because there'll be restrictions, and then there will be another stage where you have medicines available, there's some sort of like a therapeutic cure available, and then you behave very differently. And then there's the time when everything is fine, which looks like next year. Then I think everything will go back to being normal. Till then, I think public spaces or offices or factories, we will all operate very differently, and then it'll be back to normal. I think.
Here, I mean, follow the regulation. If they are not very in the region which they are not very strict, people is not very strict. The region in which you are obliged to be very strict, people is strict. And so I'm running this, I'm designing for this Michelin star restaurant here in Vicenza. And the other day we're there looking how to separate the tables somehow, if to do a barrier or what to do. And we're looking outside, we're already opening the other bars outside, and we're just packed with people without masks, and say, why are we doing that?
Exactly.
The regulation don't say that, they don't do it, why should we do it? So at the end, as in this restaurant example, everything with the economy would be the same. I mean, why you have to spend more in security or in healthcare or in caring about your employers if the laws doesn't oblige you? What happened is that maybe in 1 week we're going to have another lockdown, and you'll see that, or maybe you'll see that all your employees are going to be sick. So then you see that it's your fault and you're going to lose even more money.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it's something very personal, and of course, all these activities lost a lot of money, so they just to go back on track as cheaper as possible, but with some risk. So, and even the way people act here, we like to hug, kiss, and it's something very Italian. We are really forcing not to do that, but you see people that can't stop that. And so only the time is gonna tell what's right or not.
So I think that's all the time we had, mostly, unless there's something else that you would like to touch upon. All right, great.
That's good. I think time is up, right? 7 o'clock.
Yeah, it is 7 o'clock. So I just like to say thank you to Matteo and Sunil for taking the time to join us in the room. And thank you all very much for joining us this evening. And we hope to see you very soon again. Thanks so much.
If anyone wants to contact me to ask me anything, feel free to contact me here in Zoom or in Skype, Matteo Cibic, or call me. No problem. I'm here. Write me WhatsApp.
Great. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.